How to find a Bronco for cheap.
You posted a bunch of links for us to look up, and we're going to look at these Broncos in their respective price classes, and we're going to comment on them.
Yeah. And
when they say things like no visible rust, they're not lying. Yeah. They've just hidden it all. You can't see it.
Yeah.
Like,
how to find a Bronco for cheap. Now, this is a question that Donnie and I get all the time. I feel like anyone we meet, whenever we say, oh yeah, we do whatever with Broncos, we have a Bronco podcast, we work on Broncos, they go, hey, so I've just been really looking for a early Bronco. If you find one for cheap, will you let me know? Or like, how do you get one for cheap? And I'm like, yeah, that's not even an option, now, so I would say Donnie and I probably know a lot of places to go, or like kind of what to look for, but it was like, the whole finding one for cheap thing, it doesn't really happen.
No. And what happens is the less money you pay, the more you're going to have to spend.
Yes.
So there's, and then that takes time. So,
yep.
Your Bronco that you maybe should have spent the same money on at the end, you could have been driving that day or that weekend. Instead, it's 3 years later and you're still not driving it because it's just cost you an arm and a leg. So do we want to break these up into like levels, like price points?
Let's do that. Some price points. Price points that you're looking at here, and I would say these are even low consideration as well. Like, I would say most of what you're going to find is above this, but this is how I would. This is what if I was looking for quote unquote cheap. These are the prices. These are the cheap prices. Like I think you can find the same stuff for more. But this is what I would say the cheap prices are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're really focusing on early Broncos, the classic Bronco, but the 78 and 79s are almost at the same price point now.
That's true.
So the second gen first full-size Bronco is now almost the same deal. Limiting this to classic Broncos,
yep,
the early Bronco, under $5,000, you're literally, you won't even be able to use the chassis.
Yeah.
Most likely,
unless you're completely rusted out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means the interior's gone. Yep. There's probably no roof.
Right.
And it's going to be an early Bronco. It's not going to be a Dana 44. And
right.
If it was a Ranger package, there's no Ranger left in the truck. The doors are gone.
Yeah.
Literally, you're just getting parts. Yep. It's amazing how many late model, how do I want to say this? Like 76 to 77 Broncos that are Rangers that don't have a roof. Maybe there's a piece of chrome around the windshield, and that's the only thing that's left that would tell you it was a Ranger.
Yeah.
Seats are gone. Doors are gone. The chrome trim's been ripped off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, honestly, under $5,000, you're looking at a full restoration, and you're in the process of one. So you could spend, just give us a range in $10,000.
I would say 40 to 60. Depending on how much you do yourself versus how much you just buy new. Mm-hmm. So, if you're really handy at working on engines, like you could probably just rebuild the engine, and it might be $2,000 to $4,000. But if you need to go get a new engine, like the new parts are going to cost you more on a restoration than refabbing the old parts.
Yeah. And in today's dollars, if you needed to buy a body and do the work, so you're looking at upwards of $20,000 if you want new mirrors and door handles and latches. So let's just call it $20,000.
Yeah.
And then $10,000 to paint it. If you wanted a nice paint job or decent paint job, you can spend more. But anyway, so there's 30 of your $40,000 to $60,000 budget gone right off the top.
Yeah. And I just looked. Blueprint has a engine transmission package for $17,000. So there's your,
the rest of your money.
302 and 4R70W, and then, I'd say $3,000 per axle to get it rebuilt and put all back together. So yeah, it's it just adds up quick. But
you and I, anytime we go to a show, you and I are always drawn to the ones that they got them running.
Yeah,
it's got a smaller Dana 30 in the front. It maybe has a 6-cylinder. It's a 3-speed on the column.
Yeah,
and we just get as excited about that, if not more, than a $250,000 Bronco.
Totally. Oh yeah.
It's like, it's a Bronco. It's running and driving.
Yeah.
Still doesn't have any doors.
Right.
Or a roof.
Yeah.
Or air conditioning. But you're driving a Bronco.
That's awesome. Yeah. So then I would say next, 5,000 to 10,000. These are usually, again, this is what I would consider cheap. If you find one in this area, it's cheap. But those are pretty rough as well. Floor pans are completely rusted out. Doors are rusted out at the bottom. Needs a lot of body work, but it could be running and driving. That was what mine was. Like, my doors were completely rusted out on that 66. The floor pans were rusted out. Had holes in the owl's nest in the engine bay. Everything, it had rust in all the places that you'd expect it to have rust, but the engine, quote unquote, ran. It was a 6-cylinder, but it didn't stop. The brakes didn't work, so I would, that's, a cheap one in the in that range would be $5,000 to $10,000 today. So
the next price range is, I guess you could say $10,000 to $15,000. And,
yeah.
A lot of people are buying them. These, many of them say they run and drive, but you are going to have to rebuild the brakes and you are going to have to go through the engine but you can drive it onto your trailer and take it home.
Yeah.
And then you get home and try and drive it over 20 miles an hour. You know what I'm talking about. And the thing just starts shaking. Yep. Every up and down and left and right. And it's wagging its tail and you're like going, I haven't even hit 30 yet.
Yep.
So everything's worn out. But you got to start somewhere. So, we're just giving examples of where you start with a Bronco. So I know 10 to 15 does not sound cheap.
Right.
But you can get a lot of really good parts. And, if you can get, like, we have our favorite versions of these trucks and years and engine combinations. And, you can get all the good stuff and you can rebuild the engine, rebuild the axles. But at $15,000, if you get a body that can be restored, you're doing really well.
Yeah, usually at 15, you still have body work to do, but it's not as much. Again, I'm saying this is on the cheap end. So, if you find a good one for 10 to 15, that's what I'm saying. Most of these are in the 25 range that require minimum body work and are driving, but just not well. But still, you're looking at 10 to 20 to fix it up and get it where you want it to be, so you're still spending, if you buy it for 15 and you spend 20 to fix it up, you're still spending 35, so those are things to think about. The next range I would say is 15 to 25, and this range, I think some of these Broncos have once been restored or they've been really well kept. They usually have some upgrades, but it's like the diamond plate on the doors and stuff like that. It's stuff that the upgrades that you wouldn't want to keep in today's economy, but you can still get in it, drive around town. And the seller would probably say something like, oh yeah, back in 99, I rebuilt the engine. She made 400 of the horsepowers, like something like that. And you're like, yeah, sure. Today, that's not going to be the case. But yeah, this is the range where you probably only need 5 to 10 to fix it up and get it where you want it, put a lift on it, put some different tires on it. But again, I would say 15 to 25 is cheap on this range. 25 to 35 is probably where this range is going to be, but again, we're talking about finding a Bronco for cheap, and 15 to 25 in this, for a running driving would be super cheap and it would be a great find.
Yeah. And if you can enjoy it, like if you buy something under 15, it's just going to break every time you drive it, most likely, and then you're going to find out you need a body. But in the 15 to 25 range, you might get a driver. Yeah. And that's the whole point in owning a Bronco, right, is that you can drive it. So, but I also feel like in the 15 to 25 range or the 25 to 45 range, you might still buy a Bronco that they've hidden all the rust.
100%.
And it looks like it doesn't need a new body. And you find that stuff out later. So even at upwards of $50,000, they might hide the fact that it needs a body. And, now you're looking at, like I said, another 30 plus all the labor. So, for me, I think when you're buying a Bronco, buy the one that looks good to you and just drive it and fix it. And these are the price range, but I'd say 15 to 25,000, you can get a running driving Bronco, but you're still gonna have to fix stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like you said, 25 to 45, that's definitely not cheap anymore. I would say that's full price. Like 25 to 45. If you're looking for a running driving Bronco, that's where your range is, and probably more in the 45 and beyond. But I would also say if anyone says, oh yeah, this Bronco has been restored and it's less than 60,000, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
They are hiding all kinds of stuff, and it is a basket case, and you're going to find it out very quickly.
So you did something really cool. You posted a bunch of links for us to look up, and we're going to look at these Broncos in their respective price classes, and we're going to comment on them.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, what can we find here in just on Facebook Marketplace, and kind of just, I'll post some of these pictures if you're watching this on YouTube, and just kind of look at it with you guys. So the first one, 1975 Ford Bronco Sport Utility two-door, sorry, $8,500. Dude, this thing's $8,500.
Wow.
And it is.
Where's the windshield?
And
frame?
Please, we're not trying to bash on anybody. We're just looking at what is out there. And this thing is rough. Like, this is not a cheap version. I feel like this is a little bit overpriced for what you would get. It looks like the roll bar has been heavily used.
Looks like it saved them.
Yeah. There's no using the body.
I'm looking at this and it's like, well, I love patina. So if I could use this body.
I don't see a panel you could use. Like, both of the rear quarters are unusable. Hood. I mean, I guess you're better at body work than I am.
The stripe's cool. I literally like the stripe. The roof is completely rusted. Yeah. There's not even paint on it anymore.
It's totally brown.
Oh, look, there's a door. It comes with the door. It's just laying inside the truck. Inside. You get two doors.
Yeah. Like, you aren't going to use any of the seats. You aren't going to use any of the interior. You might use the steering column.
Yeah. So this truck, look at all the rest. So this truck needs a body.
Yeah.
So $8,500 just became $38,500, and it still doesn't run, stop, or go or anything. So you got to assume you're going to rebuild all that. So, but this is a really good example of you're basically getting a VIN, and some history.
Yep. Like, we don't even see the engine. We don't know what is under the hood, if there's anything under the hood. It could be a nice, could have a nice 302 or something under the hood that you could rebuild, but it might not have an engine.
It says the glove box is rusted. That's bad when your glove box is rusted.
Yeah. So,
but still, it for $8,500, you have a 1975 Bronco.
Yeah.
And from that, you can build whatever you want.
Yeah. All right, moving up, $16,000 for a 1970 Ford Bronco. Now, this looks, from a distance, it looks like it's in better shape.
So this is like, unlike the first one, you see what you get.
Yeah.
This one has been covered.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit harder to tell what you're going to get with this one. I would want to see this one in person. And he does say this is his project. Like, it's not complete, major rust spots. Like, he says major rust spots have been taken care of. But, there's still problem areas that I'd be leery about.
And when they say things like no visible rust, they're not lying. Yeah. They've just hidden it all. You can't see it. Yeah. So that is a statement you need to be really leery of.
Yeah.
you can't find a rust-free Bronco, so you need to find out how much rust.
Yes.
So this truck, when we look at it, we see the rear quarters have been cut, which is very common. I don't think it decreases the value. You put new flares on it.
Yeah.
But when you look at the floor pan, you can see daylight coming through everywhere. It looks like the night sky in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
So, floor pans, that's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
But the engine bay looked so good. Like
it looked so clean.
Like the firewall had no rust on it.
Right. So, again, this is just one that I would want to see in person. I think 16 could be a great deal for this, or you might still be doing a whole new paint job and still fixing some rust spots,
Well, and at 16,000, you might spend 10,000 in repairs. You might save $8,000 over buying a new body and having it painted, because we looked at the tailgate and but I did see a lot of usable parts. The hood, the firewall, the grill, the windshield frame looked pretty good, but what the windshield frame sits on was rusted through.
Piano hinge.
That's the windshield frame mount that mounts to the firewall. So this is one of those trucks where you might need a new body, but if you got skills, but you don't end up maybe saving money on it. But
could be a great deal. Like that one could be a great deal, or it could be just hiding a basket case.
But when we looked at it, everything was spray painted the same blue. So they literally and when you look at the tailgate, there's no door, there's no gap. So both quarter panels are in too far. And some of that's from that hitch.
Right.
The
ranch hand
tire mount, that like when you open that tire mount, the tailgate goes with it.
Yeah.
Then you get your tailgate cap back.
Yeah. All right, moving on. 1967 Bronco for $37,500.
Oh, another green one.
Yeah. Now this actually, for 37, I feel like this is in that what we were talking about, 25 to 45 price range. Like, really looks pretty good. They actually show the door, the door open. You don't see a whole lot of rust. There's a little bit of rust in the floorboard, but I would expect that from any Bronco that hasn't been fully restored. But yeah, this is one where the owner might say, oh yeah, back in, 99, I restored it by myself with me and my son, something like that. But yeah, for the most part, looking at this, I'm like, yeah, that's in great condition. Probably has some engine issues or something like that, but all the parts are there that I would want to be there. Everything looks like it's in, decent condition. And then you're going to spend another 10 to 15,000 just kind of upgrading and putting parts on that you want. I'd probably replace the bumpers personally and replace the roll cage and, stuff like that. Maybe put in different seats, but this is a great, looks like it's in good condition.
Yeah, and when you look at the floor pans, it's like, hey, this body is restorable.
Yes.
And they painted the outside. It's this dark, like pine green. It's really nice looking. And it's got a cage in there, and it's not rusted around the cage mounts. So this is a truck you could buy and just immediately start driving.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the metal roof anymore. It's labeled as a U15, so it should have had a metal roof or did at one time. Mm-hmm. But the door gaps look good. The tailgate's all dented up, but you can buy tailgate for $400 and get it painted, and now the whole back of your truck looks brand new.
Yeah. So I would say that's a good one. That would be a deal on my list.
Yeah, that truck's definitely worth 37. Yep. And if you were to take that vinyl top off and get a metal roof for it, it would completely change this truck. Yeah. And it would be worth even more. You don't want to be upside down, but this truck, the seats are nice, the bed floor, like, I'm pretty impressed with this truck. I've seen trucks like this. People are asking more like 50.
Yeah. Well, speaking of 50, we've got a 50 on here. $58,500.
Oh yeah, that's a nice looking truck.
Yeah, it looks maybe like it got restored, or just really well kept.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the front of the truck, and the hood gaps are on the money. The hood is not pushed back or too far forward. It looks like it's never been wrecked.
Okay, so it says never been wrecked, always been garaged, nearly original except headliner, headers, and obvious replacement parts, starter, alternator, etc. Crate 302 in it now. Man, this is a great find.
It's got hubcaps. It has the sport trim going down the side, the dual tanks. The roof's in really nice shape.
Yeah.
And it's a sport, so it has the chrome trim all over the place.
And it looks like it has every piece of chrome trim. Like that is rare to see one without a piece missing. Mine has so many missing pieces.
I don't feel like I have to drive a $250,000 Bronco.
Right.
I like the $60,000 Bronco a lot more for a quarter of the price.
Yeah. And now I would say this is different than the one we just looked at because this is not modified. It's all original. And so if you're looking for one lifted with big tires, don't buy this. Leave this for a purist who is like looking for an original that they can keep, garage kept, that they, can just keep pristine like this. Like, I think this is a screaming deal if you're looking for, now obviously I haven't actually seen this in person, but if you're looking for an original looking uncut Bronco, like I think it's a great deal.
Did you see that picture of it? It's just an amazing example of an original Bronco.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, to answer the age-old question of where to find a cheap Bronco, they aren't out there, but to change your perspective on what a cheap Bronco is, hopefully we're able to do that some, and to give you some idea of what Bronco prices are, what a Bronco is worth these days. If you have any questions, shoot us an email at questions@thebroncast.com, and we'll answer those maybe even on the air. All right, so to close this episode, we talked about it on the last episode. Tom's Off-Road, our amazing sponsor, is giving away $500 in Tom's Off-Road gift certificate and an awesome little swag bag. We're going to be giving it away at the Tom's Off-Road Rock and Roll event on July 21st and 22nd up in Medford, Oregon, but you don't have to be there to win. What you do need to do is go to the link in the description below or in the show notes below and click that link and sign up. I think you have to put in your email address, and then you go through a couple steps of making sure that you follow us on Spotify and follow us on YouTube and follow Tom's on YouTube. And you even watch a YouTube video from Tom's and you get more entries. You just get all kinds of entries on this one. It's going to be pretty awesome. So we're going to be giving away $500 at the Rock and Roll event. If you want to win that, and that is only available for you guys, for our Broncast listeners and viewers. So definitely check that out. But that's not it. But wait, there's more. Tom's is also giving early access to their seat heaters. These seat heaters are awesome. Tom's is giving us early access for you guys only for one more week. They're giving us a 15% discount on these heat seaters. So even if you're like, I don't really need it right now because it's super hot outside.
You said heat seaters.
Heat seater, seat heater.
Everyone does it.
Yeah, heat seater, seat heater. But these seat heaters are going to be awesome in the winter. But now is the best time to get them installed, while it is warm outside and you aren't freezing. So I've got a set. I'm actually going to completely restore my front seats. So I got new vinyl, new cushions, new everything. So I'm going to rebuild the seats, put the heat seaters in, but you don't have to rebuild your seats. You can actually just pull up the vinyl and slide them in. And then it has a little harness that you run to, and then a push or a knob that you can put in your dash or under your dash. So super cool. So yeah, it is a universal seat heater kit and only available to us the Broncast listeners until Monday. So, and 15% off until Monday. So even if you're like, I'm not going to do that now, I'm going to wait until it gets colder. Well, you're going to pay 15% more. I mean, it's a few dollars, but every little bit helps when you're working on your Bronco.
But if you enter, it could be free. I mean, we only have like 10 listeners. So your odds are really good.
That's right. You can win the 500 and then just buy those. Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
That'd be awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Go find a cheap Bronco.